It's a wedding, isn't it?
No one
One
wants
of
to
them's
watch.
getting. It would be like Simon getting married.
Oh my god.
Simon's getting married.
Stag do.
Stag do.
Right,
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Stag do.
Stag do. Just do
I
the
want
movie.
it. I want it. It's a stag do.
Yeah. Well. Well, first of all, we need to talk about the fact we're outside.
We're outside.
Which is lovely because it's a beautiful English spring day.
Clocks went back or forward. I don't know. I don't need to think about where they went, but they went somewhere that I like. And you know what, Georgia? It's 10 to 5 in the UK.
Goodness.
And we are outside recording, which is lovely. But for you audio listeners, every time we take the mics outside, I'm always like, oh God, is it going to sound like roads and wind? It never does. It usually always sounds fine. So for you audio listeners, business as usual. But guys, whack on the video to see the outside vibes.
Also, if you are a visual watcher, you're not going to see this. You'd only see this if you're in the flesh. But James and I are recording on a table that is probably twice the length that we normally do, and so it feels a bit like we're in a boardroom. And you're normally arm's length away from me. Now you're double arm's length away.
It feels formal. Feels like one of us is being made redundant. I don't know who's not been hitting their targets.
Are we about to do like a chess tournament? It kind of feels like.
But why not? We've been looking out the window. Hopefully at the sunshine and the grass, hoping maybe we could do some outdoor stuff.
Like a colicky child in a Victorian novel being like, I just want to go outside and play. Well, good news for you, Jimmy. The days are warmer. Get outside.
At my new place, which I'll eventually move, and I visited with the builder the other day, I was eyeing up a place in the garden for such outdoor podcasting activities. I'm like that disruptive kid in the class who's like, can we have class outside? Please, miss, can we do the lesson outside? Oh, it's so hot, please.
No, you can't.
You spend 10 minutes going outside, wasted, done, and then it's just like keeping us...
Nightmare if you're a kid, if you're a teacher. Yeah, the kids get all excited.
Terrible. They come in from break,
covered in
hot
grass stains,
and sweaty and grass stains. Just, you can't learn.
No, I do. Yeah, I actually remember being sat in a lesson when I was a kid, like just after break time, and I remember just being unbearably hot, but I do dripping with sweat.
I do love those.
Panting like it's like when you've like put your dog in the car for like a race.
And they're like, so A squared plus B squared equals... I did love at school when it was like those April, May months and it got really hot in London and you're in the UK and you just have those really lovely warm summer school days and like just the energy around the place, as with all things, the energy around the place was different. Yeah. Just felt better.
Makes you feel like you're in a coming of age film.
Yes.
You're like,
everything's going to be okay.
Maybe things will be better. Yeah. And even though these aren't the friends we have all the time, they'll be there for all time. Like the ending of a Grey's Anatomy episode.
Yes.
Maybe it's the ones we love we care about the most.
Sex and the City. And then I wondered, is it love and relationships that are relationships and love, or the other way around?
But this is episode 174. Pulp Kitchen podcast.
Welcome.
Last week we talked about, James, what did we talk about?
Oh God, it was Black Bag, and Opus,
and Adolescence.
So go and check that out if you haven't already.
Absolutely.
We do spoilers for Adolescence, which is all good fun, and we give you plenty of warning. But if you've seen Adolescence and want to sort of deep dive as to why it was so provocative, go and check out that episode Opus, which you didn't really love.
No. More like Nopus.
Well, there you go.
Thank you. And we'll be talking about another A24 movie today.
Unbelievably, another A24 movie.
Another high concept A24 movie, Death of a Unicorn, starring Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega. We'll be talking about that today.
Also, guys, we have just done our Patreon episode of Double Take. It was a huge week this week with the announcement of the Avengers Doomsday cast, some crazy inclusions and mad omissions. We did a mad rundown of all 27 characters that were announced and just gave our theories as to what's going on there and what's going to happen in Avengers. We also talked about the new Paul Thomas Anderson film with Leonardo DiCaprio that's coming out. We also talked about David Heyman and Amy Pascal spearheading the new James Bond film, which is a franchise in massive purgatory. But, guys, if you have been thinking, I'm not quite sure I'm ready to sign up for the Patreon, now is the best time to do it. We are going to be doing, for this week only, a 50% off your first month on Pulp Kitchen. The code you're going to use, which I'll leave in the description and I'll put on screen, is PULP50, Pulp50. If you've been thinking, I'm not quite ready to do it yet, but now's an amazing time to do it. So the best way to support us, guys, is to go and check out Patreon. And if you wanted to get 1 month half off, please go consider using that code, and hopefully you stick around and enjoy what we do. If you sign up, you get access to every single episode of Double Take we've ever made. We do them every single week, and there's also the other tiers if you want to explore those as well. You can also get Pulp Kitchen ad free. So if that interests you guys, thank you so much. Enjoy the discount and go and check out Double Take if you haven't.
Look at you go. I didn't even say anything. You barely took a breath. I'm here if you need. Yeah.
But you and I, we're going to be talking about Death of a Unicorn.
Yes.
We literally went to a screening. This is why we're recording it later in the afternoon. We literally are fresh from an industry screening to which Mark Kermode was in attendance.
He did, yeah.
We very much, you and I had a little look. We were like, we're in the room.
Yeah,
it's
good to be in the room.
But yeah, we've just freshly gone to see Death of a Unicorn, which we will get onto now. Any other business, George?
If you're wondering what Death of a Unicorn is about, well, here is what it is about. You've got Paul Rudd, Jenna Ortega, Will Poulter, Tia Leone, Richard E. Grant in full, shall I do a British accent? I think I will, thank you very much. And Jessica Hines as well from Spaced in it. It is a movie in which Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega play a father-daughter duo landing in Canada. Jenna Ortega is the daughter, a strange daughter who's being brought along against her will to visit the dying head of a pharmaceutical company. That is Richard E. Grant, and his wife, played by Tia Leone, and his son, played by Will Poulter. And Paul Rudd is driving up there. He's a lawyer, and he's been basically tasked with becoming Richard E. Grant's proxy on a board, so it's all sort of succession-y stuff, and that will give Paul Rudd lots of power and money, and he's kind of like a mild-mannered guy. It's not really for him, but he wants just to look after his daughter, and he's wanting to sort of attach himself to these people. Jenna Ortega doesn't really like it at all. She sees this as really icky, really corporate, really greedy, really capitalist, but nevertheless, they are driving through the beautiful Canadian wilderness. I assumed it was Canada because we saw an Air Canada plane at the beginning, but actually it's unspecified, so forgive me if I'm incorrect there. Whilst they're driving up this mountainous range, they enter Leopold National Park, which says beware for wildlife. There's lots of wildlife around. And Paul Rudd is very distracted on the phone. He's
Apologies for the helicopter.
Yeah, apologies for the Chinook helicopter that seems to be going by.
The sound list is now, what the hell, is this filmed outside? Whoa, there we go.
That's a private helicopter if I ever saw one.
Yeah, Fergus, stand by. Helicopters on our end.
Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega having this argument that he's distracted on the road, and sure enough, wham, he hits an animal on the road.
You can say unicorn. The film's called Death of a Unicorn.
I'm trying to build it. I'm trying to help the audience have visualizing their mind. They hit an animal, yeah, and sure enough, they get out, and what do you know? It's a bloody unicorn. And Jenna Ortega's like, what the fuck? It's a unicorn. And Paul Rudd's just like, oh, just whack it, hit it with a tire iron, whack it in the back of the car. We need to go to this meeting. This is more important. And then it transpires a sort of a chain of events revolving around this magical creature that they've stumbled across, who is on their hands, the body of this animal and its magical properties. And you have the Richard E. Grant's family who want to do something with it and want to use it because they're aware of its properties it has in a very sort of like glib, satirical, capitalist thing. And then Jenna Ortega's like, no, I don't think we should. Anyway, James, have I missed anything?
I think that's about it.
That's about it. Cue unicorns, cue horror comedy, satire. Death of a Unicorn, what do you think?
Well, that's an interesting one as a premise. It's obviously, when you say it out loud, it sounds like, a strange concept. It's kooky. It's obviously set in modern day, but with a fantastical creature in it. I remember half watching the trailer with Talia, and she was like, oh, that looks like really good fun. And I was like, yeah, not really observing what genre it was. And in a refreshing way, I went into this screening kind of semi-blind, thinking, I don't know very much about this. I'm happy to not know. I'm just going to enjoy this early access look at a film without too much of an impression of any review or any sort of marketing presented to me. When I started watching it, I remember the opening shots I was wrong. I'm like, oh, but what genre is this? Oh, maybe it's like a comedy, or is it we're just descending down into the woods? Are there sort of horror elements of this? Maybe it's a satire, maybe it's a parody. And even towards the end of the film, I'd say I never really understood what genre it was / what it was trying to achieve. And that's the main thing I found about Death of a Unicorn. There are moments where I think Death of the Unicorn is a little bit funny. There's this moment when they have, the body of a unicorn in front of them, and nobody really wants to say that it's a unicorn. And there's something quite funny about it. Yeah, it's a sort of horse-shaped, stitched with, this is a tumor, a protrusion, maybe, a horn. Well, I wouldn't say horn. It's a unicorn. It's a unicorn. There's something quite funny there. I think Will Poulter gets a lot of funny moments there as the arrogant, rich son of a millionaire. He's always wearing swim shorts and is, prancing around with a Bloody Mary. So there are some ingredients there that look like it's evoking films that I think are quite popular. So I saw the bones and DNA of Knives Out, Glass Onion. I saw some bones of the shocking horror and death of an Alien film. But the film, for me, just never got to any of those heights. It felt quite confused as to what it was trying to achieve and what kind of story it wanted to tell. Its moments where it tries to be heartwarming don't work. The moments where it tries to be scary didn't work. And as I said, the humor sort of, if anything, simmers. You've got Richard E. Grant doing Richard E. Grant, which we've seen do a million times. If you follow him on Instagram, you've seen his character. I think everyone's kind of doing okay work, but for me, it's a poor film, to be honest. I think it's not anything I would say you need to go and see. It felt very underthought out, very a lot of times a little bit stupid, if I may say. It's a silly film.
I agree with you. I mean, look, comparing it to something like Opus 824's previous film, I didn't find it quite as bad as that because it didn't feel as repetitive as previous films that we've seen. Right. But I agree that it's not scary as a horror. It's not funny as a comedy.
But it's trying to be.
And it really doesn't have any sort of depth or satirical bite. I think that the lack of comedy, the lack of it being funny, is really its greatest sin. Because I was thinking, okay, you might not be scary here, but at least give me something to laugh with. What really frustrated me was that I noticed 20 minutes in, I was like, oh, we are just stuck at this house. Yeah. It's sequestered at this massive mansion in the mountain range, and it's like, okay, we're stuck here. We've got great characters. Great cast and great actors, but really given nothing to do. And quite quickly on, I thought, oh, this is not coming to life at all. And it's a shame. It's a shame because, I think Will Poulter's doing the best work. If you talk about the positives, I think Will Poulter has always had great comic timing. And he's just showing that here. He just oozes charm.
Super expressive,
super funny. And I could watch him for ages. And, Richard E. Grant, always fun to have him there in his own charismatic way. I think it's a shame, like, Paul Rudd is a great screen presence, but, like, his character actually is so... It's weird to have him so restrained and buttoned up, Paul Rudd. It's different for him.
He can do bigger than that.
He can do bigger, yeah.
I almost feel like Paul Rudd of late, and bear in mind, look, this is like Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, Paul Rudd. What other things have Paul Rudd done? Quantumania. It's like Paul Rudd has always been like schmucky funny guy. Yeah. And when he was doing like 40-Year-Old Virgin and like Knocked Up, he was like schmucky funny guy. And now he's done Ant-Man and he was like the grounded father figure who cut through like the superhero stuff and gave almost like a realistic person reacting to this crazy stuff. And post that, he's kind of just been like schmucky dad. Yeah. And he's not excited me as a comedic presence for art, which is a shame because I know in films like Anchorman and Anchorman 2, he's so good and can do so much more. Whereas here he's just very underused. And like I'm thinking about the opening scene which takes place on a plane and there's a almost like weird comedic sequence which totally sets the tone for how sort of like mishandled the genre is of this film, where his daughter's asleep on his shoulder but the document he needs to review has fallen to the floor, so he's sort of like a funny slapstick where he's trying to get it with his foot. And when I think back on that scene, I'm like, what was the purpose of that?
I think it was like he was prioritizing.
No, I get. I get. Like he wanted to not wake his daughter, but get the document. But like, why show that scene? That's so passing and irrelevant to me as a moment.
Well, no, but isn't it like that's where his character is at the beginning, which is that he'd rather have his daughter hit her head.
Oh yeah.
Well,
he was trying to.
And then it's like, and then he grows and learns. But I agree. The thing is, it's quite dull. It really is quite boring. That's the sad thing.
Watch.
It's only an hour 45, and it felt a lot longer.
And I will say the CG in this is rough. It's not the worst I've seen. I thought the unicorns looked rubbish. To me, they looked like Naughty's Narnia films with these things throwing their weight around, and I wasn't convinced at all by the. I think
this is the thing when I mentioned about the where it's set. It's like. It's an A24 movie, and I think that with the cast and with the premise, you kind of feel like it's going to be a lot bigger. And I noticed there's one moment where they like the characters venture out into the forest, and I'm like, really when you strip all this away, it's actually quite a cheap film. You've shot it on location you're just in one location in this mansion, and you go into the woods, which is incredibly dark. I could barely see like
the studio.
But even if it was the woods of the studio, it's like I've got no sense of place. It's not atmospheric. It's executive produced by Ari Aster, but far cry. Unfortunately, you hear us sort of stumbling over what to say about it. There's not much to say about it. It's really quite insubstantial. And it ends, and you kind of go, cool. Okay.
And it tries to go all heartfelt,
rough,
and it just didn't work for me.
I think everyone's and the actors. I think Jenna Ortega's trying what she can with what she's got, but it
almost sounds like the bones of what could be a parody. It's like they've hit a unicorn. There are larger-than-life parody characters who think they can do something with the powers that the unicorn maybe possesses, but it's also a monster hunter style film where they might be getting picked off. There's something that could be like Scary Movie-esque about it if it was to satire the right things, but I also was sitting there thinking this doesn't really have anything to say about
anything.
That. So a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
I was always would love to hear your thoughts if you had any and you did catch Death of a Unicorn. Send in your thoughts, of course, to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. We'd love to read them out on a future episode of the show. But it's there.
Sorry.
It's a miss.
Our review is, insubstantial, a bit like the film. That's it. It's a miss.
Death of our enthusiasm.
Death.
Okay, George, should we go through some of the emails that we get sent into the show every single week? As always, guys, if you want to send in your thoughts, your questions, your concerns, your reviews, you can do by emailing them in to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com, or you can support us on the VIP tier on Patreon, where you can have priority access to have your email read out on the show. This first one is from
Craig.
Craig writes in and says, "Hello, gents. I have never resonated with a podcast title so much. When I saw the title of the episode about, Divider Jet.
This is now a... Forgive
helicopter. Inclusion, sorry, we're coming in. Oh, another helicopter.
I think it might be the same one.
See, I'll be honest, George, when I see multiple helicopters, I start thinking, is the virus outbreak?
I think that's a return journey, the same one. That's a rich person's helicopter.
Yes. Oh, that's great. Must be good. One day, George. One day. I'll go on. I've never resonated with the podcast title so much. When I saw the title of the episode about Crazy Stupid Love and Home Alone 3, I out loud said, fuck yes. Crazy Stupid Love absolutely sucks. It's creepy, unfunny, one of the worst rom-coms of the terrible rom-com era it came out in. George came out the other week and said he rewatched Crazy Stupid Love on a plane, and unfortunately it did not age well.
I had some stiff reception to that.
A lot of resistance.
But you know what? I see those people who agree. So
when you said it out loud, I was like, it checks out. Your thoughts
and
check
every
out.
Single person I've said to who's gone, no, I love Crazy Stupid Love, I say, when did you last watch it? And they go, yeah. I watched it for the first time last year, and I'm not a rom-com gal, but this was so bad. Yes, Ryan Gosling is hot, and Steve Carell plays a lovable loser so well, but nothing can save this creepy, dated, misogynist cringe fest. Home Alone 3, on the other hand, is, in all caps, amazing. The story is original. The dated tech is such a throwback to my childhood. The incorporation of Alex's toys as spy gear was so cool to me as a kid. Me too. I bought a universal remote that could tune other people's TVs because of this movie. Brackets, I was an annoying kid. And the collection of bad guys are all so effing funny. Mr. Unger and Mr. Jerrigan still absolutely cracked me up as a kid. And as a kid, I was convinced Jerrigan was David Schwimmer. Yes, he looks a lot like David Schwimmer, and he has like a similar comedic energy to Schwimmer. As a standalone film, it completely holds its own and is probably one I revisit more than the first two. Same, it's such a change from the first two, but as someone who was born in 1997, the tech, the toys, the music, the overall vibe really feels like the childhood to me I so resonate with so much. Thanks, Craig. Craig, they say you're doing a podcast has brought me so much joy in that, it's a passion I love that I get to share. But sometimes, George, you get an email and I get so validated. I've been silently with my family enjoying Home Alone 3, and I've been pushing it for years. And to hear you come out and your full support warms my heart. I'll be sharing this email with my whole family. You're sort of connected to us on a higher level, Craig.
Yeah.
You know us.
Because when you say it at parties or just with friends, they go, what? I heard there was a third one. You look like an idiot. I'm done. Thank you.
This next email is from
Maggie,
who writes in about Opus, which I reviewed last week. I've rested this.
You come down.
I've rested now, relaxed into my chair a little bit.
Works.
This outside thing. I hope everyone can still hear me.
Tilt you down. Do you want to stay like that?
Maybe for a little bit. No, I mean, is that okay? Is that
a bit low?
I'm a bit low. Okay.
If you want to be there, I'll readjust. Go on.
I think.
Stay right there. There you go. Perfect.
Okay. I'll try and stay here for as long as possible. Yeah.
As you were.
This next email is from Maggie. Maggie writes in and says about Opus, which I reviewed last week. Hello, Hello, James and George. George and James. Maggie from Edinburgh here. You've known me so far as the resident pole of the sirens. I'm actually a huge horror enthusiast. It's been my favourite genre for years, so there's very little new releases that I miss. I have to admit that the last few years have been extremely good for big horror releases. They get a lot of hype. As this trend grew, I've started getting sceptical of the ones that are not really talked about, especially in regards to American productions. International horror is always going to stay underrated, which I don't mind. When I first heard of Opus, I was really excited for Iowa Dabiri and John Malkovich on the same screen. But then I heard absolutely nothing about it when it came out. So I did go in with a fair bit of skepticism. And oh boy, it is true. I don't think anyone's talking about the film. I think it's kind of come and gone. As you said on your episode, this movie felt like a bad copy of about 5 different better productions. What annoyed me more, however, was how self-unaware it came across. The last scene felt downright preachy, and for a movie that was absolutely nothing else original to say, I genuinely believe that a bit of a meta approach couldn't saved it. I genuinely believe that a bit of a meta approach could have saved it. Thank you. In horror, especially, reinventing a trope through very explicitly recognizing it has become very popular, and I can't say I didn't enjoy most of the time. This movie does the exact opposite and treats the audience like morons who've never heard of Midsummer. Lastly, it's such a waste of Io's talent. I love her in Bottoms and The Bear, and so it was really disappointing to leave the cinema only able to remember how hot she looked in the yellow dress. I really wanted to see her flex her acting chops, and yet she's completely overshadowed by John Malkovich, who very clearly had a much more enjoyable material to work with. Anyways, I continue to love your pod, and I look forward to my morning walks with you to uni every week. I hope you keep it up and continue being my favourite film pod out there. Sirens on my end, Maggie.
Lovely email. Thank you so much. This next one is from Ryan, who writes in about Snow White, a film that we have missed because I've just not heard that many amazing things. I also, as I've said before, I'm quite conscious that if I was to go and see Snow White on my own, because we weren't given early access, I would just be this weird man who's 30 watching it with a bunch of parents and little children, and that's always when I did Little Mermaid, I really felt like that. When I did, what was another one I would have done that was Disney? I don't know. I was just like, I'm not that interested. I feel like I can get a gist from you guys. But anyway, Ryan goes on about Snow White and says, hello again, boys. I have been to see Snow White this week, and I thought it was a decent live-action adaptation, which I did enjoy. It certainly isn't anywhere near as bad as the review bombs that are being dropped on it. They stayed very close to the original, but added extra elements that enhanced the overall story and really strengthened the bond between Snow White and the prince. The musical sequences were particularly well done, with several songs receiving creative enhancements that added depth to the film. Rachel Ziegler is really good in the entire film. I thought she was great in The Hunger Games, and again, she was impressive in this film. Plus, her singing ability is second to none. I agree with you on the singing ability. She's got amazing voice. Absolutely. I did not appreciate her in The Hunger Games. I will just say that right now. I think the criticism she's getting in general is very unfair.
Very.
But I didn't like The Hunger Games. But anyway, I'm really glad to hear that she's great in this. Ryan goes on to say, about the dwarves, or magical beings, I don't know, I went into this film thinking it was a super odd choice from what I saw in the trailers and didn't think it would work. However, I really enjoyed the portrayal of them, and they brought a real magic to the film. Disney was put in a tricky situation with what to do with them after people like Peter Dinklage spoke out, possibly took 7 jobs away from dwarf actors, so I don't think there was a right answer for them, but it worked for me. On a more sour note, Gal Gadot's performance as the villain did not resonate with me. She was trying to come across as scary and imposing, but I honestly just didn't get any of that. Just like I said last week about Regé-Jean Page, it came across as someone acting and took me out of the scenes. Also, her singing scene to me stuck out like a sore thumb, which was just a bit odd. I shall leave the kitchen with a final note. The comments by Rachel throughout the production of this film have really hurt this film. I do believe that speaking out about why you believe in it is a good thing. However, it's crucial for those in her position to consider the broader impact on the production. At the end of the day, a lot of everyday people work on productions like these and are not getting paid the millions to be there. This film will go down as a bomb, which is a shame. Because I do think it's a good film. Disney needs to hire better people to help with PR. Cheers, guys.
I counter that, Ryan. I'd say that I don't think what Rachel said did hurt the film. I think what hurt it was the fact that it was an unasked for, undemanded product that was dropped and reshot many times and was a kind of a dud from the start. I'm kind of really rejecting this narrative that Rachel Ziegler is somehow responsible for the failure of this movie. This movie was a failure long before she was probably even cast.
Just for context, people didn't catch it. A while ago when they were initially shooting the film, she was asked in a red carpet moment, I think, about her and how they were going to tackle Snow White. She made a comment about the original not really, giving Snow White as a character much agency. And she said, we're not going to do it like that. We're going to give it much more depth because, the original's a little bit like this. That then just blew up as a comment that she was unappreciative and ungrateful for the role.
I don't think that's a bad comment either.
And I don't think, and actually the reports from people who've seen the film being like, it's not that much of a wild, revolutionary retelling of the story. It's still played quite straight towards Snow White. I do think it's a shame. As you said, I think this film, the reports are that it costs $250 million, which is insane. That's what an Avengers film costs. But also, there's no way it should have cost that much.
Also, sorry, so to just be specific, referring to the fact that Rachel, one of the producers flew out to speak to Rachel one-on-one about something she had tweeted, and sort of laid all the blame at her feet after the film came out. And I'm like, it's just so much bigger than one person speaking their opinion. Also, yeah. Anyway, I feel sorry for her. Yeah, it just I all this stuff, even with the Gal Gadot thing, I'm like, yeah, she might not be amazing in it, but you just never have it with a man the same way. I just smell it, and it's so easy for to be like, oh, this, Rachel Segler's only like 23, so oh, what is she talking about? What is she doing? And the internet just stinks of the same kind of
also
toxic
the
bullshit.
using of the
anyway.
word. Oh, it's
I'm not saying you're saying this, Ryan, by the way. I'm not saying you're saying this.
No. I also find really annoying. I think I said this on Double Take. Maybe the use of the word woke storyline or woke treatment. We've used that word. It's been co-opted by the right to be anything to do with progressive gender politics or identity politics. It's been redefined as this new thing. I'm we need to find a new word to describe your dissatisfaction with that type of storytelling or treatment. It's oh, it's the woke version. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Woke.
You just mean new.
Well, yeah.
What?
Woke was slang. I actually started thinking where did even woke come from? And I find it really annoying that the right are it's a woke version. Anyway.
Yeah. This next email is from Charlie, who writes in about Big Fish, which we
here
mentioned
we go.
very briefly last week.
The other day.
Hi lads, I had to message because James mentioned Big Fish now being rubbish.
Oh, here we go.
He's spot on.
Oh, okay.
I loved it as a kid and spoke
sure.
fondly about it. And I was excited to show it to my girlfriend who hadn't seen it. We ended up turning it off about halfway through. Oh. It's aged like milk. Also, fun little fact, Miley Cyrus is in it as a child too.
Oh, cute.
Anyway, are there any films you loved as a kid and now realise you can't stand on that hill any longer? Cheers and keep up the good work, Charlie. Sent from my Outlook for iOS.
I watched Free Willy yesterday.
Oh, yes.
Free Willy 1 from 93. Terrible dialogue. Cute film. Terrible dialogue.
Is it a good movie?
Yes, at its moment in time. It doesn't have any value to watch now.
Because we all know it's on the poster. Willy gets free.
Willy gets free. I think if you're watching that, you're just looking for something quite comforting and heartwarming.
Is it also,
it doesn't really hold you in suspense.
Is the film also hey, kids, you know what? Animals matter.
But as we were watching this, the sad irony is that this is about an orca at a SeaWorld equivalent in captivity. But the film is filmed with a real orca that also inherently, by nature of the film being able to work, is in captivity. So this horrible realization watching it back, I was like, well, what was this film doing? And then you'll never believe this. At the very end, Willy gets freed, fades to black, and a splash screen goes on the screen. If you would like to hear about saving the orcas, dial 1-800-ORCA. Genuinely. It said dial 1-800-ORCA. To hear more.
What happens if you dial the number now?
I've got no idea. But we saw that and we all burst out laughing because there was no the whales used in this film were X, Y, and Z. No afterword. Just if you'd like to hear more about saving the orcas, dial 1-800-ORCA. So that was a film that I don't think I can watch the same way again. Ben writes in with the subject line, "What's Tom Cruise doing?" And this is, of course, relating to the fact that a few weeks ago you asked the incredibly important, difficult question of does Tom Cruise have a smartphone?
No. Does Tom have a phone? Full stop.
I don't have a phone.
Mobile phone.
And then expand into conversation of at the end of his day, what's he doing? Here, Ben likes to answer. Hi both. I hope you are well. Haven't emailed in for a while, but I'm listening to all the good content. Thank you. Thought I'd chime in with some knowledge about the question raised at the start of the previous episode. What is Tom Cruise doing at the end of the day? I saw a TikTok video the other week where Thomas said he watches a lot of films and actually tries to watch a film a day.
Wow.
I've linked the video from TikTok below if either of you are interested. Thank you. No actual question from me, so I don't know if this will be read out, but thought you both and maybe some listeners might find that interesting. Keep up the good work. Kind regards, Benji. Yeah, I've heard he's a big cinephile.
Good. I can see that.
Yeah. He wants to know. He wants to be a learned filmmaker.
He's passionate about cinema, and I like that. You know what, Tom? Respect.
Yeah. Jude Law also apparently watches 7 films a week.
No, I think he used to, but he does try to.
Oh, I thought he still does.
No, he said when he was in his early in the early noughties, he was going to the cinema seven times a week.
Oh, that's great.
That's great. Sometimes do 3 films a day. But he loves films.
Racking up numbers.
Join the podcast, Jude.
Welcome at any time, and we know you're listening, Jude.
Final email from Sam about comedy sequels from 2 weeks ago. Hi, chaps, long-time Real watcher, first-time podcast listener.
Nice.
Love your work.
Nice.
I've just gone back to your most recent episodes and wanted to share some love for The In-Betweeners 2.
Cool.
I probably watch this every couple of years with my brother-in-law when he's come home for Christmas, alternating between the first and second films, and the bits still stand up. I think it's a great sequel, especially for those of us who grew up with these characters. At no point does it feel like a cash grab. It makes sense to see these characters in this stage of their life and are some of the best standalone moments of the two films. I also think this film has benefited hugely from the accumulated chemistry of the four main cast members and experience from the first movie. You feel a great sense of familiarity with these characters over the years, which comes to a head with this film, and you get the feeling that they quit while they were ahead. This may be pure nostalgia talking, but I think it's great. Would love to hear your thoughts. Sam sent from my iPhone.
In the back of my head, I thought that The In-Betweeners 1 was better than In-Betweeners 2.
Yes.
And the series was better than all of them.
I thought that the series was great, and I think it ended really well with the film. I hold the first film in great regard, and I think the film serves as a great ending to the series, because it makes sense. That's what everyone did at school. You go to those gigs. And then I thought the In-Betweeners 2, no, I didn't rate it at all. I just thought like it just didn't felt organic to it. It just felt, because of the first one being such a success, they came out. But I really do rate the first In-Betweeners movie. There's always a bit I like where it's like they've had a bit of a disagreement and they're stood by the pool and they're like, well, what the hell do we do now? And they're in Spain and they're like, I don't know, it's a bit too far for your dad to come pick us up. And I'm like, yeah. You're teenagers still. You've fallen out and you're still kind of powerless, and sometimes it's a bit shit. I don't know. I like it. Theo James in that movie.
He is. Theo James. I always thought not acting well in that movie, but he's definitely come out the other end as a really accomplished actor. What was I going to say? It was... never mind. Oh, no, sorry. Yes. Jay Buckley, who, fun fact, who plays Jay, is the most successful creator on Cameo.
Yes.
I think he said he makes like 7 figures a year on Cameo. Yeah. He has said that he has received offers in the numbers of millions to, if he would come back and do In-Betweeners. And it's a conversation that racks in his brain every so often, because he's like, that's a crazy amount of money. Yeah. Should I do it again? I know people would love it. I'll always be remembered for these characters. Would a version of the In-Betweeners work where they're now like, 28 to 32 and one of them's married or having kids? And like, we're not going to ask them to answer that question, but that's something that is on, I'm sure, a lot of them's minds. And I bet whenever they are approached by anyone, it is in referral to the In-Betweeners. The guy who plays Neil, Blake
Harrison.
Is it Blake Harrison? I interviewed him once. Lovely guy, but it was really I was really thrown to see that he's like a normal, smart, just an erudite actor. Yeah. It was for that very big English scandal with Hugh Grant. I got to meet him, and he's really lovely, really softly spoken, kind, smart. Really loved being in the In-Betweeners, but also acting, doing interesting work. But yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, would it work if they were older?
How old are they now? Are they mid-30s?
They're all like mid-30s. So if they did something like they were playing our age, maybe. But the thing is, they've only...
It's a wedding, isn't it?
No one wants to watch...
It would be like Simon getting married.
Oh my God.
Simon's getting married.
Stag do.
Right, oh my God.
Oh my God.
Stag do.
Stag do.
I want it. It's a stag do.
Yeah, well... I don't think that's what. Oh my goodness, I could so see it. Actually.
That would be really good.
Because also, do you think there's like there is a cut-off age? No one wants to watch the In-Betweeners in their 40s, or 50s, right? So they've got to get it done soon.
Will's at some like horrible corporate job, and he's like sort of made it, but he's like terribly miserable and is cocking up at work.
And Neil's accidentally become quite rich through crypto.
Yes,
He's just suddenly
Neil's actually doing really well, but it's only revealed he's doing really well like much later on. Yeah. But he lives in like a camper van.
Yeah.
Jay is probably still like on the road. Are we just thinking about the World's End though? Are we writing the World's End?
No,
there's elements of that in there.
This could be better though. Yeah. I think Jay would still be still in his hometown, probably working at a pub. Yes. Nothing wrong working at a pub, by the way. Yes. Just like Jay's character.
But in their group chat says he's like trading in Dubai.
Yeah, I'm doing loads of stuff. Yeah. But he actually he's just working at not a pub. He's working at like a WH Smith
bowling alley.
They're few and far between. That feels very American, working in the bowling alley.
British bowling alley is sadder though.
How about a WH Smith? As train station.
Petrol station. Yeah.
Well, petrol station.
Yeah,
petrol station is the
services.
Yeah.
Guys, oh God, it's got legs.
In-Betweeners 3.
It's got legs. Make it happen. We'll clip it.
James, shall we conclude this episode
with a game?
James, as ever, Pulp Kitchen ends
with a game.
And excuse me. Something within me, the game monster just sort of came up. We talked about Death of a Unicorn today, which is, of course, an A24 movie. And what I wanted to do was just essentially do kind of the videos you see on TikTok, which is like this or that, and then you keep one, and then you keep going through.
Oh,
it's
great.
Kind of like I'm going to call this an A24 bingo. So, James, I'm going to name an A24 movie, and you just have to choose between the two, and then we'll work through their catalogue until you've sort of reached the peak. I've only got sort of like 15 here, and I'm hoping we could narrow it
15 pairs. Of course.
Well, 15. One qualifies onto the next round, so it's like 15 films.
Oh, I see, right.
So you're going to keep one. So, for example...
It's like a Wimbledon-style chart.
Yes, exactly.
Love that. Okay, great.
So, which A24 movie do you prefer? Mm-hmm. Death of a Unicorn or The Brutalist?
The Brutalist.
The Brutalist or Heretic?
The Brutalist.
The Brutalist or Baby Girl?
The Brutalist.
The Brutalist or Sing Sing?
I think The Brutalist. That's close. That's really close.
The Brutalist or Civil War?
The Brutalist.
The Brutalist or Everything Everywhere All at Once?
The Brutalist.
The Brutalist or The Iron Claw?
The Brutalist.
The Brutalist or The Zone of Interest?
The Zone of Interest.
The Zone of Interest or Past Lives?
Past Lives.
Past Lives or Ladybird?
Past Lives.
Past Lives or Beau is Afraid?
Past Lives.
Past Lives or Uncut Gems?
God, I'd love to have seen Uncut Gems more recently. I'm going to go with Past Lives.
Past Lives or The Lighthouse?
Past Lives.
Past Lives or Midsummer?
Past Lives.
Past Lives or 8th Grade?
Oh, do you know what? Like, I think Past Lives is a better film, but I maybe... I'm going to say Past Lives, but 8th Grade is really good.
Past Lives or Hereditary?
Past Lives, but Hereditary, yeah, I mean...
And lastly, Past Lives or Good Time?
See, Safdie Brothers ones. I think I'll stick with Past Lives, but you've got some really great contenders in there. But interesting. It was Brutalist held it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, and
that's great. I like that.
I've just cherry-picked some of the highlights from their back catalogue.
Yeah.
Obviously, A24 released many more films than that.
Did that go where you thought it would?
Kind of. I think I probably should have buried the Brutalist a little bit later.
That's all right.
So you could have fought between the Heretics and the Baby Girls.
I was worried I'd come across as like, the Brutalist. Yeah, no, the Brutalist. Was it shot on VistaVision? Brutalist.
So that was just a quick A24.
I enjoyed that. That was great.
There you go. That was episode 174 of Pulp Kitchen. Thank you very much for joining us. As James mentioned at the beginning of the show, we have a exclusive episode on Patreon this week of Double Take.
Avengers.
As it is every week. But the Avengers Doomsday Cast.
It was fun. We talked all about the theories of the X-Men's and Ian McKellen's and Patrick Stewart's and Tom Holland. Apparently not in this one, but he will be. Is he going to turn up in a post-credit scene after Doomsday? We think so. Go check out that episode. And as we said, we are giving 50% off if you sign up this week with code PULP50. So go and check that out if you haven't already. That would be amazing support for us.
Also, James has finally watched all 4 Pierce Brosnan Bond films.
I certainly have.
And what are you going to do? You're going to rank them for us?
Yeah, I mean, might not hard rank them, but I'll tell you like where I'm sitting with them, what watching them today really made me realize about Pierce Brosnan and his Bond films. So yeah, go check that out later in the week.
And other than that, guys, thank you for joining us. And please continue to follow us and check us out on social media as well, film bites and events we're going to. I'm going to Hollywood.
Oh, yeah, George is going to LA tomorrow. It's so cool. How did we not mention? George is going to LA. Unfortunately solo because I can't make it. I'm going somewhere else. But Sony have invited Pulp Kitchen to LA to check out some new film technology and television technology.
Yeah, I will come back with dispatches and tell you all about it.
Go follow at Pulp Kitchen Podcast. George will be posting stories of all the things he's seeing and doing. And your first time in Los Angeles.
Absolutely. I'm taking
really cool.
the Pulp Kitchen flag and I'm putting it in the Hollywood sign.
I want you to get a huge selfie stick or your new water bottle with MagSafe and just go filming around. Sun cream and a visor hat.
The reality is I'll probably some more of air-conditioned taxis and hotels and studios. I'm there for 3 days.
When you're listening to this, George will be in LA.
It's a crazy amount of time to go to LA for 72 hours.
9-hour difference or something.
Yeah.
That's
anyway,
intense.
I'll talk all about that next week.
New episodes every Wednesday.
Thanks to our producers, Finn and Dave.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care, guys.